Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the Week 10 NFL slate on Draftkings and Yahoo. We're going to go position by position, going to go through quarterback through tight end, talk through this Week 10 main slate, kind of give you guys my final thoughts, what does stand out to me looking at this slate on Friday afternoon. So before we get started with the breakdown, as always guys, please do hit that like button down below. I appreciate all the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well if you are new here, and be sure to check out the sponsor of this video, PrizePicks. For those of you that have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, you would like to try them out. They're more of a player prop based DFS site. They're not necessarily like Draftkings or FanDuel or Yahoo where you're building out a lineup, you're competing against other players. You're not doing that on PrizePicks. It's basically just you versus the projections. You look at their projections, you see the props they have listed, you go over or under the projections for all the players. You can kind of take a look and see everything they have. You can find some picks that you like for yourself. They have passing yards for quarterbacks, rushing yards for running backs, receiving yards for receivers. They got passing touchdowns, total touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, passing completions. They also have fantasy point projections as well. You can take a look at their fantasy point projections, go over or under on those. I think the fantasy point projections, those are where the biggest edge is on PrizePicks, in my opinion. So you can see everything they have to offer. For those of you that have not checked out PrizePicks yet, you would like to see what they have to offer, sign up, use promo code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. Whatever you deposit, whether it be $30, $50, $100, they will match that, give you an additional whatever you deposit. They'll double your deposit basically. So check them out guys, use code NOAH, and go make some picks for for this Sunday slate. See what everything they have to offer. But let's go ahead and start off at the quarterback position. We're going to go kind of top to bottom. As always guys, we're not going to talk about every single player on the slate. I don't want this video to be too long. I'm going to try and keep it around like 20 to 30 minutes. So Gonna do like a quick run through of each position. But at the quarterback position, at the top, there's plenty of viable plays every week at the top of the quarterback position. Kyler Murray was out last week. We don't really know yet if he's gonna play come Sunday. He's questionable, game time decision. He did get to practice he did practice Friday in limited capacity. So maybe he plays this week. I think even if Kyler does play, he's a riskier option. He's gonna be super low owned. I don't have that much interest in Kyler though. I think Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, like these are the guys I really like at the top of the quarterback position. Now, when it comes to tournaments and playing a lot of tournament lineups, I normally do play 150 lineups every week on Yahoo in their big $1 million tournament. I'll have exposure to all these quarterbacks. I'll be stacking up Josh Allen with Steph Diggs, with Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. I'll have some Brady, Evan stacks, some Brady Godwin stacks if Godwin plays. Herbert though, I think might be the guy I like the most out of all the top tier quarterbacks. 7,300 at home against the Vikings. I mean, really good spot here for Justin Herbert. I do like him on Yahoo as well. Pretty cheap over there, only $31. I think you're getting a pretty nice discount on Herbert, whereas like Allen's $40, Tom Brady's $40, even Dak Prescott's $40, whereas when you drop down, Herbert's only $31. So he has just as much upside as those top guys, and you're not having to pay that hefty $40 price point. So I like Justin Herbert on both sides. I like this matchup at home against the Vikings. Pretty good game environment here right now. This Vikings-Chargers game does have the second highest total on the slate behind Falcons and Cowboys. 53.5 total here. Herbert, he's got a ton of upside. We obviously know, when he has his big games, we kind of know where who is going to benefit. So it's very easy to stack Herbert with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Those are going to be the two guys you really want to prioritize getting Herbert with. Now, Herbert did have a pretty big game last week, and I know Mike Williams didn't do that well. Keenan Allen did do well. But for the most part, when Herbert has his good games, when he throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, it's pretty clear that, those touchdowns, where they're going to go. It's to those two guys that we just mentioned. We're going to talk about them when we get to the wide receiver position, but I do like Justin Herbert a lot at the quarterback position. Can't go wrong with any of these guys, though. Dak Prescott at home against the Falcons is in a great spot. It looks like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are both going to play this week. Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID, but they said that he has continued to take part in individual meetings. He remains on track to start Sunday. So Aaron Rodgers should be back Sunday. Aaron Rodgers, he's been a pretty good fantasy quarterback this year. In a matchup against the Seahawks, I definitely have interest in Aaron Rodgers, who will for sure be in my tournament player pool. Russell Wilson at 6,700. I like Russell Wilson quite a bit as well. Pete Carroll has already confirmed that Wilson will start Sunday's game against the Packers, so he's expected to be back as well. So I think both those quarterbacks make a lot of sense. I think Russell Wilson at 6,700 might be one of my favorite quarterbacks in the 6K range. Him and Dak Prescott I do like quite a bit. And then when you're getting down towards the value tier, like there's really not a ton of value at quarterback this week. And we've seen that kind of a lot this season. There's never like a ton of cheap quarterbacks that I feel great about. But I think like Carson Wentz at home against the Jaguars. I mean, Carson Wentz could definitely put up a big game here. Jacksonville's defense has just been so bad this year. Right now, the Colts are big favorites in this game, so I do kind of worry that maybe they get a big lead and they don't throw the ball that much in the second half. But if this game does stay competitive, I think Carson Wentz has plenty of upside. He might be my favorite of all the value quarterbacks, but there's not a ton of guys down here that are really projecting that well. Taylor Heinicke should be forced to throw a ton against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a team that it's really, really tough to run on. The way you beat Tampa Bay is through the air. So I think Heinicke maybe as a value quarterback makes some sense. But this is kind of another week where I really want to be focusing on the top guys. Allen, Brady, Herbert, Rodgers, Prescott, Wilson. I think that's where a lot of my quarterback exposure is going to go this week. So that's probably it, just kind of a quick overview of the quarterback position. Now looking at running back is absolutely loaded this week. There are so many good running back plays. So many guys are projecting out really well at the running back position. Starting off at the top with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey I like a lot this week at 8,400. He's been a full participant in practice all week. He's not on the injury report heading into Sunday. I'm expecting him to be full go after he was limited last week. CMC, it had been since week 3 since he played. He got injured in that week 3 game against Houston. He was out for a while, and then he came back last week against New England. He was limited. He only played 49% of the snaps, but he still got 18 touches. Even though he played 50% of the snaps, he still touched the ball 18 times. When he was on the field last game, he was basically involved all the time. We know Christian McCaffrey's going to be involved a ton. We know he's got massive upside. The matchup against Arizona may not be ideal. Arizona's defense has been good this year, but Christian McCaffrey is just going to get so much opportunity. He's going to get 15, 16, 17 carries. We know he's going to get a ton of usage in the passing game as well. Even if the Panthers are playing from behind here, which is pretty likely. Right now they're 10 or 11 point dogs. We're going to see Christian McCaffrey maybe get 9, 10 targets. At 8,400, he should be full go this week. He is definitely a top option if you're paying up at the running back position. We do have some value at running back that we will talk about that I do like a lot, but I think CMC is a top option. Jonathan Taylor at home against the Jags. I mean, fantastic spot here for Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to get a little bit lower ownership compared to CMC, compared to Dalvin Cook. But JT against the Jags, great spot for him. He'll definitely be in my tournament player pool. Really, all these guys, are going to be in my tournament player pool. Now, if you're playing one lineup, God, it's going to be really tough to kind of just figure out where you want to go at the running back position just because there are so many good plays. Dalvin Cook against the Chargers, I mean, fantastic spot for Dalvin Cook. The Chargers this year against the run, they've allowed the second most rushing yards, only behind the Texans, to opposing running backs. So, especially if you're stacking up Justin Herbert, I think Dalvin Cook makes for a great run back option. Najee Harris, fantastic spot for him at home against the Lions. I mean, the Lions have just been terrible this season. They haven't been able to stop anyone. Najee Harris this year as a runner hasn't really been that efficient. You look at his yards per carry, a lot of games he's averaging less than 3 yards per carry, 4 yards per carry, but he's going to get a ton of volume. He's going to get 18, 20 carries. He's going to get some pass game usage as well. He's going to get all the goal line work. I mean, he's got a ton of upside here and a great matchup. And then Austin Eckler on the other side of that Vikings game, I mean, he's in a great spot at home against Minnesota. Minnesota's defense not been that great this year. Austin Eckler just been so consistent this season, getting a ton of opportunity, getting great pass game usage. He's obviously someone that is really valuable on DraftKings, with DraftKings scoring being full PPR. Getting a guy like Austin Eckler who just gets so much usage in the passing game. Same with Christian McCaffrey. Those guys are super valuable to roster on DK. So I think Austin Eckler's in play for sure. And then we got some other good plays like Zeke at home against the Falcons. He might not be my favorite of all these guys we've talked about, but I think Zeke is still in play. Aaron Jones at 6,900 should be lower owned than a lot of the guys we've already talked about. Ownership for the most part this week at running back is really spread out, at least as of the time I'm making this video. Almost all the guys we've talked about are getting at least 10% ownership. Right now, Aaron Jones projected for 14% ownership. I think he comes in a little bit less than that. Is 6,900 at home against Seattle. I think Aaron Jones in a pretty good spot this week. I think he's he's a good play in the 6K range. Really tough matchup for DeAndre Swift, but Jamal Williams is going to be out once again. And with Jamal Williams out, we should see DeAndre Swift be a true workhorse running back. Now, Jamal Williams was out last week against the Eagles, and obviously DeAndre Swift was massive chalk. He was one of the best plays on the slate, and he busted. Only had 12 carries for 27 yards, just 5 catches for 24 yards. But that was just a completely terrible game from the Lions. Now, on the road here against Pittsburgh, this could be another spot where the Lions just get blown out. But as long as they don't completely shit the bed like they did last week, DeAndre Swift does have plenty of upside just because he's going to be so involved. He's going to get all the goal line work. He's going to get a ton of opportunity. He's going to get great pass game usage. Even if they're playing from behind here against Pittsburgh, which is pretty likely, DeAndre Swift will still be heavily involved, could see close to 10 targets. He should be lower owned, I would assume, given the tougher matchup. So I think he's a good play in the 6K range as well. James Conner, though, is probably my favorite play out of all the 6K running backs. And I think he's probably a little bit too cheap this week. So we already know that Chase Edmonds is doubtful. He's unlikely to play. With Chase Edmonds unlikely to play, I'm expecting James Conner to be kind of the feature back for the Cardinals. I think they will still involve Eno Benjamin. I don't think James Conner is just going to be like a workhorse. I think they will involve Eno Benjamin. We've seen so far this year the Cardinals like to involve Conner and Edmonds when both were healthy. Now I think Eno Benjamin maybe takes the Edmonds role. Maybe doesn't play as much as Edmonds did. But Conner should get a ton of opportunity regardless. And we saw last week after Edmonds got injured, Conner was a workhorse back. He got 21 carries, got 5 targets as well, had a massive 40 DraftKings point game. I really don't want to look too much into that, but what we do want to look at is the opportunity. He got 26 total touches. I want to look at how many snaps he played last week. I know Chase Edmonds got injured like right at the start of the game. Like Chase Edmonds only played, he played 1 snap. He literally got injured after his first snap. So Conner played basically the entire game without Edmonds, and he played on 77% of the snaps, which was a season high. I'm expecting him to play similar snaps this week. I'm expecting him to get probably close to 20 touches. Now, the Panthers' defense has been really good this year, but in a game like this where they're massive home favorites, where they're probably going to be feeding Conner in the second half, he's one of my favorite plays in the mid-range. Like him a lot on DraftKings. I think he looks really good on Yahoo as well, only $21. Like James Conner quite a bit on both sides, with Chase Edmonds not expected to play this week. But then looking at some other guys, like in the 5K range, there's not too much I like here. I think once we get down below 5K, this is where we can start to find some value. So we did get word just before I started recording that Alvin Kamara is going to be out this week. With Alvin Kamara out, that really thins the running back, the backfield for this Saints team. Mark Ingram, I think, is going to be the lead back. I think we'll see probably Dwayne Washington involved a little bit. Alex Arma, I'm pretty sure, is like a fullback, so I don't know how much they want to give him, like how many touches they really want to give him. And then Lamar Miller, I think, is on the practice squad still, so we don't know if he's going to get called up for this game. But regardless, I think Mark Ingram's going to be a workhorse running back this weekend. I know it's gross, but 4,500 for Mark Ingram probably gets close to 20 touches. He's looked good so far this year with the Saints ever since he got traded to New Orleans. Just super cheap for the opportunity that he's going to get. Obviously, DraftKings was not really able to adjust the price. Nobody expected Kamara to be out this week, but I guess he just wasn't able to practice, wasn't able to get healthy. So Ingram does look like one of the better value plays. Now, right now, he's not projected for much ownership at all, but I assume that will, now that we officially have word that Kamara's out, the ownership projection on Ingram is going to rise. But like I said, so far this year with the Saints, he's been kind of involved a decent amount as Kamara's backup. Now without Kamara, I expect Ingram to be the starter. I expect him to probably get 12 to 15 carries, probably get 4 or 5 targets as well. He has been involved a decent amount in the passing game ever since getting traded to New Orleans. Only 4,500, pretty good matchup against the Titans. I think Alvin Kamara looks like, Mark Ingram looks like one of the better values at the running back position, and Dearness Johnson looks like a great value as well. Dearness Johnson I would probably put ahead of Mark Ingram, to be honest with you. 4,700 for Dearness Johnson, like he is literally the only healthy running back that the Browns have this week. I mean, he's projecting out as a top value play. He's going to get massive ownership, but I think this is chalk that you're probably just going to have to eat. The matchup on the road against New England, may not be great, or you may not think it's great, but so far this year against the run, like this Patriots team has actually not been that good. In terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs, they've allowed 852 rushing yards to opposing running backs, which is in the top 10. This is a Patriots team you can run on, and with how much opportunity Johnson's going to get, I mean, he is another really, really good value at the running back position, and again, very cheap on Yahoo. I think he looks really good over there, only $13, so like I said, the running back position is loaded, a ton of pay-up options, a ton of cheap value. Johnson and Ingram look like really good value plays, and then CMC, JT, Cook, Najee, Eckler, Zeke, Aaron Jones, like Swift, Connor. Like there's just so many good running back plays this week. I would kind of narrow it down to these 3 guys as kind of my favorites right now, but you can't go wrong with any of the running backs that we talked about. Really think there's just a ton of ways you can go at the running back position. But that does it for running back for the most part. We kind of mentioned Dearness Johnson, like how he's the only healthy running back. I'm pretty sure, like I don't even know who they have behind Dearness Johnson. I wanted to look at this real quick. So Nick Chubb is out for COVID. Kareem Hunt's on the IR. And then Felton, who was the backup behind Johnson, he is also out. So, like, literally, like, I think Andy Jankovic is a fullback. I don't even know if he's, like, actually a running back. And then Stanton, like, I don't even know who this guy is. He's on the practice squad. Like, they don't have anyone else. I think Dearness Johnson, like, he's going to play 80, 90% of the snaps. He's going to handle the ball as much as he can. So he is a top value for sure. Wanted to just kind of get that out of the way real quickly. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver now. Talk about the wide receiver position. So at wide receiver this week, Devonta Adams, most expensive option. Devonta Adams, I was not as high on last week with Aaron Rodgers out, with Jordan Love at quarterback. Adams still got targeted a ton. He just didn't, really connect on those targets. The targets weren't as efficient. Only 6 catches for 42 yards, just 10 DraftKings points. But with Aaron Rodgers expected to play Sunday, that obviously increases the ceiling and the upside for Devonta Adams just a ton. His floor is also a lot higher as well. He's my favorite pay-up option at wide receiver. Usually any slate Devonta Adams is on, when he has Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be a top option for me, and I think that is the case this week. But I think Justin Jefferson makes some sense as a tournament option, especially if you're, stacking up that game with such a high total. A lot of ways you could stack it up. You could go Cousins, Jefferson, stack up those two guys, run it back with Eckler, run it back with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Really good game to target. I think Justin Jefferson does make sense as a tournament option. I think Steph Diggs in tournaments makes some sense as well. Steph Diggs has kind of been underperforming this year. We really haven't seen many massive games from him. His 2 best games were against Houston and Tennessee. Like, he only has 2 games this year over 20 DraftKings points. But against the Jets, I mean, this is a great spot for Steph Diggs. He could definitely break out here. I do want to mention that he is really cheap on Yahoo. If you play over on Yahoo, Steph Diggs is only $24. I think he's a really good play there. But even on DraftKings, I think he looks like a really good option. But one big injury we're going to have to watch at the wide receiver position is Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, if he plays this week, I think is a pretty good play, just because Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski are both going to be out once again. We've seen Gronk and AB be out for like the last 2 weeks, and Chris Godwin has put up some massive numbers without those guys. 11 and 12 targets, 28 and 31 DraftKings points. He's gone over 100 yards in 2 straight games without AB and without Gronk. 7,100 against a really, really bad Washington secondary. I think Chris Godwin, if he plays, is a really good play. If he somehow gets ruled out, though, that will definitely change a lot. That will make Mike Evans look like a really good play at 6,900, just because Mike Evans at that point is going to be the wide receiver 1, going to get a ton of opportunity. We know this Bucs team loves to pass the ball. They are like one of the most pass-heavy teams in the league. So if Godwin plays, I do like him a good amount. If he's out, would love Mike Evans. Would really like Tyler Johnson for value as well. We can talk about him later. He's only 3,300. He would be a really strong value if Godwin were to be out Sunday. But we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Some other receivers though, Keenan Allen. We got Justin Herbert in our kind of early core. Keenan Allen, I do like to pair with Justin Herbert. At 7K on DraftKings, I think he's another very good play at the receiver position. $26 on Yahoo. I do like him quite a bit over there as well. So we've kind of seen Keenan Allen kind of take over that wide receiver 1 role these last few games. Obviously, Mike Williams has had a great season. Mike Williams had that stretch of games where he was just smashing every single week. But now we've seen Keenan Allen kind of take over the number 1 role. He's got double-digit targets in 2 straight games, 19, 25 DraftKings points. Great matchup this week against Minnesota. Great game environment. Should be a high-scoring game. Second highest total on the slate. Definitely like Keenan Allen at 7K. I think CeeDee Lamb for lower ownership is fine too. He should be a lot lower owned than Keenan Allen. Obviously, he'll get lower ownership than Mike Evans as well. I think Mike Evans will probably be the popular pay-up receiver if Godwin sits, but clearly Mike Evans would be a good play in that scenario. Without Chase Claypool, without Juju, Deontay Johnson against the Lions. I mean, great spot for Deontay Johnson. Like, this is a crazy slate, man. There's so many good plays this week. Deontay, I think, is in a great spot. Going to get a ton of opportunity without Claypool and without Juju. I think he makes good sense as like leverage off of Najee. I think Najee will be a pretty popular running back play this week. I think Deontay Johnson gets some ownership as well, but I don't expect him to be as popular as Najee will. So if you wanted to stack up Big Ben and Deontay in tournaments and not play Najee, I think that does make some sense as a way to get a little bit of leverage. But some other wide receivers we could look to in the mid-range, like Mike Williams, should be a lot lower owned than Keenan Allen. So if you want to go that route in tournaments, I think that makes sense. The Seattle guys, especially now that Russell Wilson is back, I think DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett both make sense as tournament plays. Obviously, if you're playing tournament lineups, you definitely want to be stacking up Wilson with those guys. You want to have Wilson and his receivers in your player pool for sure. I will definitely have those Seattle guys in my player pool. Some other options: Amari Cooper, 6,200. Amari Cooper was pretty chalky last week. He was 5,700. Price tag only went up $500. I think at home against the Falcons, Amari Cooper looks like a really good play in the 6K range. And then getting down in the 5K range, a guy like Christian Kirk, we're going to have to wait and see who's able to play for Arizona this week. Once again, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, as we talked about earlier, are questionable game time decisions. And Rondale Moore is also a game time decision. He's questionable too. So this could be a crazy scenario where we get maybe no Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, and no Rondale Moore. At that point, that's going to leave Christian Kirk as like the wide receiver one. Even with Colt McCoy at quarterback last week, Christian Kirk didn't have a great game, but he still did get 6 catches for 91 yards, and he looked good. I mean, Colt McCoy looked decent. Like he didn't really his Cardinals offense didn't really struggle. They put up 31 points. I know a lot of their production came through the ground with James Conner, but Kirk, especially if Hopkins is out again and if Rondale Moore were to be out as well, I mean, he should get a ton of opportunity. He would definitely be a good option in the 5K range. Jerry Jeudy, I kind of like in the 5K range. Does feel a little bit underpriced for the just upside and talent that he has. Julio Jones at 5,400. I mean, God, when was the last time we ever got Julio Jones at 5,400? He's been really bad this year. We have not seen like any good games from Julio except since week 2. He's been injured a ton this season. We don't really know if he's going to play come Sunday. I assume he will be out there. If Julio does play, I mean, at 5,400, he's going to be super low owned, I would assume. Like Julio, let me look at his ownership. Right now, Julio is projected for, where is he at? Let's go to wide receiver. I would assume it's like probably single digits just because of how bad he's been this season. Yeah, so he's only projected for 9.8 DK points. He's got less than 1% projected ownership. I mean, I know Julio's been terrible this year, but anytime Julio is 5,400 and he's going to be 1% owned, I mean, my God, like I will definitely be overweight on Julio in tournaments. I like stacking up, Ryan Tannehill with Julio, run it back with Mark Ingram, who, we talked about is a really good value running back. So Julio at 5,400, I think makes a lot of sense as a tournament play, assuming he's able to play this week. There's other guys I'll have in my tournament player pool, like Cole Beasley. I will definitely be including in my Bill stacks. Jarvis Landry should continue to get a lot of opportunity without OBJ, with him no longer on the team. That's a good way to gain leverage off of the Dearness Johnson chalk. If you want to fade Dearness Johnson, which is kind of risky, but if you want to fade him and play like Baker Mayfield, stack him up with Landry, I mean, that is definitely something you could do in tournaments. You'll get a lot of leverage like doing that. But then below 5K, value at wide receiver this week is not great. There's not a ton of cheap guys that are projecting that well. Jamison Crowder, I think, is like a fine option. He's going to get probably 7-8 targets. We know the Jets are going to be a very pass-heavy team. They're going to be playing from behind almost every week. Once again, here against Buffalo, they're expected to be trailing. So we should see Crowder get some opportunity. He's only 4,800. I think he's a solid value. I think Jacoby Myers, just the dude can't score a touchdown. It seems like he's never going to get into the end zone, but he gets a ton of opportunity against Cleveland. May not be the best matchup here, but Myers at 4,800 makes some sense as a value wide receiver. And then like AJ Green could be viable if, depending on who plays for Arizona, like if DeAndre Hopkins is out, if Rondale Moore is out, AJ Green, Christian Kirk are going to be the two lead receivers for the Cardinals this week. If both those guys are out, AJ Green's only 4,600. He would be a pretty solid value play at wide receiver. Now that he's back from the COVID list, I think he would make some sense for cheap, depending on what happens with Moore and Hopkins. But then below 4K, there's one guy I do want to mention below 4K. James Washington's only 3,500. I guess there's two guys. So Michael Gallup is 4K. He's expected to return from injury reserve. He's on track to play Sunday. We don't really know how much he's going to play. We don't really know if there's going to be any sort of pitch count, if he's going to be on a limit. But Michael Gallup at 4K in a really good offense, in a really good matchup against Atlanta, and what should be a high-scoring game. Nobody would be surprised if Gallup had a good game here. Obviously, the upside is there when you're playing with Dak Prescott and you're playing on such a good offense. But he's definitely going to be competing for snaps against or with Cooper, Lamb. Cedric Wilson's been playing well. Like, I don't know if they're going to play Gallup ahead of Wilson. So he's a riskier option, but at 4K in a good matchup, Gallup is definitely in play for value. James Washington, though, is the one guy I do want to mention down here at 3,500. So without Chase Claypool, without Juju, I'm expecting James Washington to be the wide receiver too. I'm expecting him to play on the outside with Deontay Johnson. I mean, James Washington has really not done anything this year, but now without these, without their two starting receivers or two of their starting receivers, no Juju and no Claypool, we might see James Washington play on 75-80% of the snaps, if not more, for 3,500 in a really good matchup against the Lions. I mean, there's definitely going to be some opportunity for him here to have a good game. Again, he hasn't been great this year. This Pittsburgh pass offense, with Big Ben at quarterback, you just never know what you're going to get from some of these guys except Deontay. We know Deontay is going to put up numbers every week. James Washington's a bit riskier, but at 3,500, if you do need a cheap value wide receiver, he would definitely be someone I would target, and he's for sure going to be in my GPP player pool. He's in my 150 lineups. I'm definitely going to have some exposure to James Washington, but I think that's pretty much it for the wide receiver position. There's really no one else down here that's projecting that well or really getting much ownership. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and move on to tight end, kind of quickly cover tight end before we end the video. So at tight end this week, we got a lot of the normal guys at the top, we would consider paying up for. A lot of those guys are not on the slate. No Kittle, no Kelsey, no Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts, once again, our most expensive tight end, 5,800 on DraftKings. I think Kyle Pitts, if you're paying up a tight end, he is definitely the best option. Pretty good matchup against Dallas. Dallas's defense has been a lot better this year, but still, this is a really good game environment. This is projected to be a high-scoring game. This should be a game where Atlanta is playing from behind, and they're going to have to throw. So I think Kyle Pitts, out of all the 5K tight ends, between him, Hockenson, and Schultz, Pitts is my favorite there. But Hockenson and Schultz are both fine options too. Dallas Goedert's definitely my favorite of the 4K tight ends. Dallas Goedert just going to continue to get a ton of opportunity. Even though Jalen Hurts has not been throwing the ball a ton lately, we've seen Goedert still get 7-6 targets. He's going to be an every down tight end with Zach Ertz no longer on the team. Him and Devontae Smith should be the two guys you see lead the team in targets pretty much on a weekly basis. His price tag still, it's not moving, even though he projects really well every single week. I think Goddard's a good play at 4,700. I think if you're looking a little bit cheaper, like Noah Fant, I don't mind at 4,300. Pat Freiermuth at 3,900 had a great game Monday night against the Bears. 6 targets, 5 catches, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. Put up 21 DK points. Now, he's a pretty scoring-dependent guy, and really that could be said for most tight ends at this point. Outside of Kyle Pitts and Hockenson, there aren't really many tight ends that have the opportunity to put up, or have the ability to put up, 120, 130 yards. But if Freiermuth can get into the end zone, he could definitely put up a good game at 3,900 and in a good matchup against the Lions. He's going to continue to, get opportunity. The matchup's good. Without Eric Ebron, Freiermuth, at 3,900 is definitely in play for me this week. And, some other cheap tight ends that are projecting well. Ricky Seals-Jones is a fine option. Darren Arnold's once again going to get a good amount of ownership. Darren Arnold's been playing pretty well lately, been getting good volume. 7 targets last 2 games. We know this Jacksonville team, they're not good. They're going to be playing from behind a lot. This is another game where they expect to be playing from behind on the road against the Colts. So for 3,500, if you need a cheap punt tight end, you could definitely look to Darren Arnold as well, along with Pat Freiermuth. But I think that's probably it. Jared Cook's getting some ownership. I've been on Jared Cook some this year. I've had him in my tournament player pool a lot. He seems to just never come through. He's super scoring dependent. If he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's not going to get there. But for 3,200, he's super cheap. He doesn't, he's projecting well. If you want to go there, he's fine. But really, I think tight end for me, I'm going to try and stick to the guys that I think actually have, a lot of upside. So Kyle Pitts, TJ Hockenson, Dallas Goedert. If I am going cheap, I do like guys like, Noah Fant, Pat Freiermuth as cheaper options. Darren Arnold, I don't mind either. But that's kind of it for tight end, guys, and I think that's it for this Week 10 slate. So that was just kind of my quick overview, quick breakdown of each position, quarterback through tight end. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope it did help. If you enjoyed, guys, please do hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button as well. And again, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks, see everything they have to offer. You can take a look at their board for this Week 10 Sunday slate. You can see all the projections they have listed for every player. Very simple. Just go over or under. You take a look, see what you like, and kind of make some picks for yourself. You can win up to 10x your money on PrizePicks. So if you want to sign up, guys, be sure you sign up and use code NOAH, so that way you do get that deposit bonus, get that free bet up to $100. But that's it, guys. Best of luck this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy the video, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.